Hey, welcome back to the Coffee with Creators podcast. Really excited to have you here. My name is Rob Balasabas. If you haven't met yet, nice to meet you. And if you've been here before, glad to have you back. I've got a really awesome conversation to share with you here with my friend Monica Ken. She is a creator and community executive and strategist. She's a co founder, she is ex spotter, ex Meta, ex YouTube, ex IGN Entertainment, ex JP Morgan. Her LinkedIn is stacked, and we actually met while she was at Spotter, and we have some mutual friends, and Rob Gable. Shout out to Rob if you're listening, who connected us, and during her time at Spotter, we had connected because she was also going to different conferences, and she actually came to a couple of our Uscreen dinners while she was with Spotter, and so we just really really chopped it up, caught up, talked shop about the creator economy, about what she's doing now with helping creators and their businesses grow and scale. And so if you're a creator, if you're involved in the creator economy, then this is an episode that you definitely want to dive into. And so I'm excited for you to meet my friend Monica. Before I do, though, I want to invite you to first subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, then please make sure you subscribe. That way you can get to see all the new episodes as they come out. Second, I would love for you to give us a rating. I think that really helps to get the word out about the podcast to more creators, industry folks, and just build our community. And so those two. And then a third ask, a bonus ask, is for you to check out my newsletter, subscribe to the newsletter. I send it out about once a week, and it's just a really good way for us to stay in touch. All right. So, with that, without further ado, let's go and have a chat with Monica. All right. Hey, Monica, welcome to the podcast. Really glad to have you here. Before we jump in, why don't you just take a minute or so and just introduce yourself to the folks out there listening, who you are, what you do.
Hi, Rob. Thanks so much for having me. So excited to be here. Yeah, I have been working in the creator economy with creators for almost 15 years. Currently exploring new opportunities, trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. Will I be supporting a creator directly? Would I go and work for a creator economy company again? Or should I be helping brands better lean into creator marketing? There's a wide array of opportunities ahead, and excited about how those conversations are going. But in terms of my background, started in the creator economy back at IGN Entertainment with gaming creators. At the time, they were really just hobbyists, but I helped IGN Entertainment launch a multi-channel network alongside many MCNs popping up in the wild, wild west days of YouTube at the time, with monetization just a few years out. And we were doing those deals because creators were earning a larger rev share with us versus directly with YouTube. But they had access to us in terms of strategy and supporting them with various issues they experience. And we had direct access to YouTube Partner Manager, which was also helpful for the creators that were part of that MCN. So I was doing the deals, cutting the checks, doing that end-to-end MCN management. And then realized that I wanted to go and work at YouTube, supporting a wider range of creators and media companies with their YouTube strategies. So that's where I really helped these individuals and teams leaning into the platform, managing their presence on the platform, and really growing their channels to millions upon millions of subscribers, which was exciting to see at the time. And then, coordinating with various teams across the company, like product and marketing, YouTube originals, all kinds of teams that wanted to get greater insight from creators and what they were building, feature them in various efforts to amplify and tap into the power that they had on the platform, but then also help them sort of explore new business models. And that part of that was also ushering in the branded content era that was sort of taking over. And then, seeing creators sort of join that side of things, seeing them earn more from brand partnerships than AdSense was an interesting inflection point. So it was towards around 2019, 2020 was when I decided to make the move to Facebook to join in a slightly different role, still in partnerships, but much more interfacing with the product team. And that was to specifically build monetization features for Facebook groups. And that brought me to a whole segment of new creators, if you will, community organizations at that time, and really thinking about different models to explore so that these community organizations that were leaning into Facebook groups, these admins could drive a new revenue stream through Facebook. So we brought a brand matching collaboration product to Facebook groups. We also implemented fundraisers as well as Facebook Shop. So it's interesting to see how these monetization models kind of played out with this segment. And then soon after, about 2 years in to Facebook, I was kind of looking around outside at the creator economy, excited to see all the activity that was happening. A lot of former colleagues moving into the space and taking the leap, and I was excited to be reached out to by Spotter to work with them to be their new sort of head of community, EVP, ultimately name change to creator experience. But basically, the idea was to help the company go from a transaction based model into a sort of relationship based model where they had been funding many creators time and again, multiple deals over for some creators. And how could we bring a more relationship based experience to that transaction so that we could do more with creators and we could be more than just a provider of capital. So I helped bring community. So what that meant was, credibility with data and insights. That's how we sort of built trust with creators because of our prowess with data and data analysis. And then we earning trust over time, one on one through white glove support. We actually were able to organize events with creators from small group events to large scale ones, and then we also brought experts into the mix to give creators that access that they couldn't get on their own, but we could provide. And all of these touch points and interactions leading to more time with creators and realizing that we could support them in a bigger way. And that's how the Spotter Studio came about. So my team and I working very closely with product to evangelize this software early on with the creators that we were part of our community to bring them along on the journey of building the software with them, getting their feedback and in an iterative fashion, really applying their feedback and updating features as we go along. And yeah, excited to see that Spotter actually rolled out the software at Vid Summit. Exciting to see that. But yeah, so now figuring out what's next, given my background in sort of creator partnerships and community building.
That's so I don't even know where to start because you're such an incredible experience and just the things that you've done with the companies that you've worked for and worked with is so cool. And yeah, you just must have so much knowledge and just insights on the creator economy, and that's such a general term, but I'm really curious, like, of all of that, like, was there sort of a defining moment in your work, in your career, in that timeline where you really, like, it really shaped how you looked at empowering creators or how you could really help them, like, because you worked with community builders but also gamers, and then big name creators that are very much household names now. And yeah, just curious kind of where those points in your career were.
I think there's definitely quite a few points. I think that the biggest defining moment was when I was at Spotter, and it was really at the beginning where I was having these initial conversations with creators that we'd already done deals with to introduce the concept of community and that I was here to build community for them and with them, but I didn't actually have anything to provide at the start. You need to build the offerings to then give that to creators and see if that will drive value. So, where we started was the data. Spotter was able to do these licensing deals with creators because they had access to immense amounts of data, and we're able to analyze that and project out how much a creator would make, over a period of time. We could take that same breadth of data and then repackage that for programming strategy purposes, where we could tell a creator and sort of analyze their performance based on, sort of various lenses, is from a retention standpoint or a packaging standpoint, from a, you know, ad settings optimization standpoint. There's so many different ways we could look at it. And I took my background from YouTube as a partner manager, doing quarterly business reviews. I'm sure everyone from YouTube is listening about the quarterly business reviews. That was just like clockwork for us. That was a cornerstone of how we managed the relationships with creators. And I took that skill set and really brought that to Spotter, where these insights are really helpful for creators, and
Mhm.
we can go even deeper than YouTube and other third parties that may be doing this in a really bespoke, personalized way, because we want to provide that value. And right now, early on in building community, we want to earn trust, and you earn trust by demonstrating value and earning credibility through that. So that's what we did with a handful of our top creators, and we presented various analyses and sort of delivered actionable recommendations. They gave us feedback in all of those analyses. They also implemented those recommendations and saw improvement in their performance. And that was really exciting to see, that the insights that we were delivering was actually boosting their growth. Um, so I think that experience made me realize, like, it's a slow roll to build community. It doesn't happen overnight. So the way I thought about it was a value exchange, right? When I'm
Mhm.
hopping on a call with a creator, I want to make sure that I'm using their time such that I'm giving them of something of value, where I
Right.
exceed their expectations and what they came to talk with me about. And that being kind of a mantra that I tried to spread to my team and the company, about sort of what it means to meet with creators and what are we trying to do. And then from there, it was like we're building our offerings as we go, like flying the plane, like building the plane while trying to fly it,
Yeah.
right? Where we're doing the thing, delivering the value. Then we're like, okay, let's do events while this is happening. And then once we send out those invites, they're like, oh yeah, the people who were sending me those insights and we did the deals with, like, yeah, I'll go to that event. Had we sent the invites to the events at the start before we earned that trust and credibility, it would have felt like just a spam email,
Right.
right? So that relationship building early on was super important, and we went the route of really being trusted, and that was so important to us as a value at the company, and that's why we wanted to sort of manifest that. And then that led to sort of, when they needed help with introductions or had questions about anything else, like, we were there to be a partner to them. And if we didn't have the answer, like, we would find the answer for them. It didn't have to be from us, it could be from somewhere else. And that sort of one by one led to, how do we build offerings to sort of expand how we provide support to the community, but earning trust one at a time with each
One
of
at a
these
time.
creators, right?
Yeah.
So that to me was a unique inflection point, because defining moment, as you asked, because when I was at YouTube, when I was at Facebook, and even IGN Entertainment, there was a brand there that represented values to those creators that I kind of had to, I could like sort of rely on that.
Mhm.
Whereas here at Spotter, I was helping reposition the company to be
Yeah.
something that it hadn't quite proven out yet.
Right.
So that was definitely daunting, but now looking back, such an exciting journey and a playbook that I hope to tap into in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. I'm in a similar role, right, where it's like the relationships are really hard to gauge. It's really hard to measure what's the value of a relationship. And the things that you're doing that's sort of intangible. And so, yeah, I mean, watching from the sidelines, what you guys were doing at Spotter was really impressive. And I'm like, man, that's the way to build what you guys were doing. Like you said, you're kind of like taking it from like this offering and Spotter being seen as this like funding place to now being this like more holistic community for creators and not just this one offering. So I mean, you guys have done such a great job there. Um, what is, I mean, you've throughout your entire career here, like I'm looking at your LinkedIn, you've really worked at the role here to like help creators build their businesses, right? Sort of as a forefront here. So I'm curious, like what you found to be the most effective way to help creators grow their channels, grow their businesses, in a sustainable way, like, outside of just like sort of, one trick pony of like brand deals, right? What's been the best way for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think like consistency is everything, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think like I sound like a broken record in the creator economy saying
Right.
that, but we would be working with creators, whether it was at Spotter or I was at YouTube, realizing that they'd sort of achieved a sustainable business,
Mm-hmm.
but they were doing it like really crawling to like maintain that sustainability. So kind of helping them see the forest through the trees strategically. And
Mm-hmm.
the best way to do that was to really call out the other creators that they see as creators they want to aspire to be like, or their
Mm-hmm.
peers, of like, we work with them too and they're doing it this way, just
Mm-hmm.
so you know. So
Mm-hmm.
not telling them what to
Ah.
do, just giving them the information to inspire, right? This is where
Mm-hmm.
case studies can be really valuable. So I think like at YouTube and then also at Spotter, like it was like a valuable strategy internally to like document when we saw impact, when we saw smart best practices implemented by creators, because who knows who that could be helpful to
Right.
down the road, that we could just be a facilitator of the information. And we're not even saying do this, we're saying this has worked for this creator, so like feel free to consider it in how
Yeah.
you think about scaling and optimizing your business. So that I think has like we've just been that helpful sounding board to see that bigger picture when they can't. I think when I go back to my days at YouTube, and I sort of help bring this to Spotter as well, where it's like we thought about sort of content performance as the easiest way for us to provide unique insights that they couldn't get anywhere else. And because we have access to all of the data and we have so many different partner managers talking to so many different creators, like we have so much information that we can impart that that could be helpful. So
Mm-hmm.
we thought about channel optimization. We could see that there are creators who are leaning into enabling ads across different videos and how they do that in the different formats, and how that doesn't hurt retention. And creators are so concerned about that, and we kind of proved that out. So making sure creators had fully optimized. I did that at YouTube. We also did that at Spotter. At back in the day at YouTube, there's various sort of tools associated with the channel, like making sure you're fully optimizing to grow watch time overall per session. So like making sure your videos are in playlists organized by topic, right? Things like that. Are you leaning into new membership models that we're coming out with, like channel memberships as an example? So making sure that they were up to date on what the latest product features were, to see how that could help grow and sort of their performance. And we always did it with like kind of an experimental lens, like
Mm-hmm.
what's the like sort of tests that you could run to see if this is worth fully implementing. So finding that way to kind of get creators to lean in. But otherwise, it was, I think retention super important, like thinking about the diversity of formats and lengths. At YouTube there was no shorts when I was at YouTube, but now there's actually a shorts feature. So obviously I think 2023 was very much about what should I be doing. I'm leaning into the shorts, I'm leaning into the long form, I don't know what's going on, how do I
Yeah.
manage this? I think that debate continues. I think it varies for each person, but I do think in general it feels like there are sort of two businesses around short form and long form. But that's the kind of advice that we can give as well, because we can see high level the data and where their opportunities are. And then packaging is one that continues to get a lot of interest from creators of how they lean into it. I think that the biggest evolution that I've seen since I worked with YouTube creators, when I started there in 2014, was really thinking about packaging in your pre-production, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then that really informing the storyline, and by the time you get to uploading it, it's all sort of packaged up, and you even have options for thumbnails that you're going to swap out as you see performance in those first 48, 72 hours. And I saw creators at YouTube when they saw the opportunity to do this, like see those wins from, optimizing library videos, not even their new videos, library videos, right? And
Right.
the same like principles apply, and it's really exciting to see how it's like standardizing
Yeah.
across the creator ecosystem. But yeah, that's really like where we typically leaned in, was the content strategy and performance, and using data to back up the recommendations such that it's as actionable as possible, supplementing that with case studies so that creators, sort of feel confidence in, like, you're not just telling me this based on data, you're telling me this and saying these creators have done the things you're telling me I should try,
Yeah.
to sort of give them the confidence that it's worth
That's so
doing.
good.
But that seems to be like, but even then, like, there's no surefire, this is for sure going to work. But as much as you can root it in the data, like, you can be that sort of expert to suggest, like, well, if the data is saying this, these are the things we could suggest, it becomes the as closely correlated as possible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like really showing them, because I do find that creators don't, they're pioneers in many sense, but like when it comes to monetization, they almost want to see it work first because it's, resources that they have to allocate or like shift into those different revenue streams. No, that's really good. So case studies, and that's what you guys really did there and did that really well. Share the stories. I love that. Kind of shifting a little bit, Monica, you got to work with, I'm sure like, organizations like TED or Khan Academy, not for profit, right? How can those kinds of organizations sort of monetize digital content without losing like their educational, mission driven sort of spirit of what they do? Yeah.
It really depends on each organization, each brand's ethos, how they think about profitability and the new ventures that they pursue, and how they, account for their revenue, et cetera. It was really interesting early days, Khan Academy and TED, and I wasn't the partner manager at the time. Somebody else on my team was, and I was sort of later mid journey with them. But I do know that both TED and Khan Academy were adamantly against enabling ads on their content. Um, TED didn't want that. But then, with our help, with our team's partnership, we did run a test to assess monetization potential on some of those videos by enabling ads, and they saw a massive monetization windfall. And given the amount of reach, the views that those videos were getting, it was pretty substantive that they decided to enable ads on all of their content. And that was massive for them. That became a huge revenue stream for them. It obviously helps to diversify revenues. Like, you want to sort of diversify and create more stability financially by doing that. And by having more funding sources, they were able to have even more impact, right? And obviously through their events, they're also generating revenue that way. So this became a tremendous revenue source through them on YouTube. Khan Academy, however, it is my understanding that they still have not committed to enabling ads on their videos. And we've talked about this with them time and time again, similarly, trying to nudge them to do a test. But, I think for them, the videos themselves that they're putting up on the platform are learning experiences for the students they're targeting with their content, right? So they don't want to have ads at the top, at the middle, at the end, anything that could disrupt or take away from the learning while viewing experience, which makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. The TED Talks are different from the sort of videos that Khan Academy are putting up, sort of walking through how a formula works, etc. And it's just a different audience that they're trying to target, especially these younger viewers that they just don't want to disrupt that experience, and they want to preserve that as much as possible to maximize that learning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's interesting though, like those insights of do you monetize on the ads or do you monetize the views eventually, like more down funnel, right? Like a lot of creators, in our world at Uscreen, they're, selling digital products, memberships, courses. And so they don't really care so much about the programmatic ads and stuff like that because they want to promote themselves rather than ads, and it's kind of a tricky
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
I think like arguably, why couldn't Khan Academy even like do pre-rolls given that
Yeah,
the industry is like now standardized around it, and the all of these young viewers are used to watching a video at the start before mid-rolls I can
yeah,
understand. But I think it's also just part of their brand ethos where they really like embody that not for profit, and they don't
yeah.
want to be seen as profiting from this content in this way, and they have their own business models on their own O&O platforms to which they're sort of driving revenue that they don't see themselves doing it. And I think they see YouTube as like a marketing arm. It's really, it's not necessarily their only home base, right? So I
Yeah.
think I think that's part of that as well. And then, PBS Digital Studios was interesting as well. They monetized, but
Mhm.
it wasn't necessarily their number one priority. It was more about reach and engagement with them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great. It's actually really good to see because I think a lot of the more individual creators, rather than these big brands, are sort of adopting some of these like concepts and strategies as well with their content. And they're not just they're just becoming more strategic, more intentional with like their distribution of content. And yeah, no,
Yes.
it's really good to see.
They
I
start
want to
prioritizing other avenues. That's right.
Exactly, exactly. I want to shift a little bit, Monica. I'd like to really pick your brain around leadership. What kind of comes to mind for you when it comes to leadership? You've led teams like throughout your career, and yeah, just as even now as you're kind of looking through and thinking through your next chapter and your next adventure out here, yeah, what comes to mind as far as leadership? Talk to me a little bit about that, and how you sort of prioritize that in your work.
Yeah, I think for me, it's super important that for everyone on my team, regardless of what level you're at, that I'm able to connect with individuals on a human level. And, I want to make sure I'm fostering an environment that's empowering folks that they can do their most, meaningful and impactful work. And so I spend time with them. One-on-ones are super important, especially at the start for getting to know the person beyond work, outside of the workplace, as much as I can help that person bring their whole self to work and feel excited about what they do and the value that they can bring to the company, their partners, etc., then I'm doing my job.
Mm,
So I really am, very much about empowering folks on the team and listening to folks on the team and hearing their ideas. And when they have an idea, go and run with it and ask for forgiveness later. That's totally okay. That's always
yeah.
been what I've been encouraged to do personally. And so I advise that back to folks on my team. So I think like for me, it's like really trying to find those individuals who are very passionate about the space I'm in, the team that I'm hiring for. And, once you spend that time in the hiring process, finding people who are incredibly skilled and experienced and passionate, you I automatically have trust in sort of empowering them to do their best work and leaning in to sort of follow their lead in that sense. And I think from my perspective, like my job is to make sure that I've gotten buy-in from the leadership team, and I'm also making sure I'm giving visibility to them for all the accomplishments they're driving, all the achievement that they're
Mm,
having. This isn't just me, like, driving the it's a team, it's all of us. So it's on me to make sure that I've gotten the leadership's buy-in. They know what's going on. They're supportive of the impact that's being driven, and that's my role. So that's the partnership and sort of trust that I have with the team and sort of how we work together. I think the other piece that I would say about leadership is transparency is super
mm,
important, and I want to make sure that I can be as transparent as I can about what I'm learning from the top and what I'm hearing across the team so that everybody can get on the same page, but also try to spark open discussion so that we can talk about various topics and issues that are coming up, so that that's the only way we can move forward, people feeling included, people providing feedback, and us sort of doing it together. So part of that was making sure we were documenting all of our work, taking
mm,
notes, recording our calls, sharing that out with the company. Like we had the privilege, immense privilege of working with creators on behalf of Spotter, but not everybody at Spotter was able to meet with creators. And we didn't take that privilege lightly, right? So it was also about making sure we were sharing what we were learning back to the rest of the company, right? So that transparency and information sharing was incredibly important. And obviously that became very important when it came to the product development workflow and feedback loop as well. And, as much as we can, like, do in-person team building exercises. Majority of the team at Spotter was in LA. When I was at Facebook, the team was completely distributed. It was during the pandemic. So, even if it's not in person, what are the things we're doing to convene to just talk about stuff that maybe is not about work, and
Right.
just kind of, like, get unwind and get to know each other beyond, and get to each other's sort of level at the human level, I think is just really important from my standpoint.
I like that. I like that. Rather, what was it? What's the saying? It's like I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission, or something like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Ask for forgiveness later. Just run. Just
Yeah, just
run.
do it. Just
Don't
do
even
it.
worry about it. That's something I've always told the
That's good.
team, because uh, time is precious, speed is of the essence. Just go.
Yeah,
Just go.
yeah. And also, like, I think it fosters like innovative thinking. Like,
Yeah.
that is like it's a safe place to make mistakes and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And then we can debrief later on the learnings. There's always going to be learnings. No one's perfect. And in a startup environment, we're writing the playbook. There
right,
isn't a
right,
process, right? And, like,
literally,
if you're looking around wondering, like, I don't know how to do this, like, why don't you go figure it out? Like,
yeah,
it's because no one's thought of it. You figured it out, and go do it. And I think that's where, I think that people started to be like, oh God, if I'm going to bring up an idea, that means I have to go run and do that. And I
run and
learned
do
that
it.
early on in my career. I'd be like, oh, I suggested the idea. I didn't mean that I wanted to do that. And I'm like, well, then don't suggest
Yeah,
it.
exactly. No, that's great. That's great. Somewhat related, I think, is also diversity inclusivity. Like, you're a member of Chief, which is, it's a private network for connecting executive women leaders. I think when we were at the last conference at Vid Summit, you also were hanging out with Desiree with like women in video. Like, obviously, this is something close to your heart. Would love to, like, yeah, just for you to speak on that. Like, what comes to mind when it comes to diversity inclusivity, whether it's like your own team, your own, like, the companies that you're working at, but also like the creator economy in general. Like, where do you see that happening?
Thank you so much for bringing this up. I think
Yeah.
that with diversity and inclusion, you have to be intentional, whether it's in your recruiting efforts, or you're, putting together your portfolio of partners that you want to be managing. Thinking about diversity and inclusion is not going to happen by accident. It has to happen intentionally, because I think that the YouTube platform, like, on its own, is not necessarily sort of rewarding creators in the most equitable ways always, and that's a fact. So how do we counter that? And I think it's, folks in the industry, at companies in the creator economy, that can combat that by doing things to bring these groups together, right? To make creators of diverse backgrounds feel seen, feel supported, because they're feeling like they have sort of an, like, they need to work twice as hard, etc. So that's something we did intentionally, from building my team, which I'm proud to say was a very diverse team. But then also the how we thought about our service tier model, and how we worked with creators in different ways, making sure each of those tiers were well represented by creators of diverse backgrounds. But then also, creators of diverse backgrounds inherently represent communities that sort of exist already out there. How could we tap into those existing communities? So, for example, for Black History Month, we organized an event to bring together our Black creators that we work with. We did the same for female creators as well, in spirit, in celebrating Women's History Month. And I think that that's where you want to help these creators feel a sense of belonging. Sometimes in spaces that don't cater to those differences, they feel not as confident, and they feel more intimidated to be the different one sharing, a bold perspective. And I think that when you feel like you're with people that are like-minded, um, and look like you, to be honest, there's a comfort level. So I think it is really important for these creators that come from minority groups to think intentionally about how to make them feel seen and represented and heard, so that they can thrive in their careers and succeed and do well.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I mean, for me, it's I'm like you as well. I feel like when you have when you're given access and sort of like a certain level in your career, or like even when you're starting out, I think it's important. I love seeing that you are making that intentional. I think that's a really good word about like you really have it doesn't happen on purpose, right? Like diversity and inclusion, it just doesn't happen on purpose. You have to
No,
really be looking at, and sometimes you do have to like it has to be called out, it has to be brought up in awkward ways. And I think yeah, I think as a time in society, I think we're learning more and more how to do that and kind of step out into some of these like moments of
totally.
like, should I say something, or should is this a thing, like am I missing something, am I the only one seeing this, and
And
so
to be
yeah.
honest, like I think, as a woman of color myself, my
Hmm.
parents being Bangladeshi immigrants, I grew up in this country. Like
Yeah.
I want to pay it forward too, right? Like
Yeah.
I've been in those spaces, I continue to be in those spaces, and I'm grateful for those individuals and groups that create those spaces where I can feel welcome, like Desiree did, uh,
Hmm.
with that women's event at Vid Summit. So I think it is so important to think about those differences and how we can embrace those communities and have people feel comfortable in those spaces, and only like from a partnership standpoint deep allow you to deepen those partnerships and like
Totally.
further along your business goals in that sense, actually. So it's a win-win all around to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is great. I have one more question for you, but before we do, I'd love for you just to share where people can connect with you. Yeah, just the best places for them to just connect with you and continue the conversation with you. Maybe ask you some questions. Yeah,
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best place. I find myself starting to post there more often, and I'm constantly, reading the feed, and I'm in the DM. So LinkedIn is my jam. I don't know that I'll call myself a B2B influencer yet, but feel free to reach out to me there.
I would say so. I would say so. Yeah, I'll have a link to your LinkedIn, and yeah, you're. I mean, it's great. I love catching all of the stuff that you're sharing there. And don't be humble. I mean,
Thank
you are recognized as I think one of the most powerful executives in the creator economy by I think is it Fast Economy and Forbes, I believe as well. So
Fast
uh,
company. Yeah.
yeah, no, you're doing awesome things there. This has been really good, Monica. The last question I have for you as we wrap up today is, over the next few years, you're so tapped into the creator economy and our industry. What do you think are some of the shifts, some of the changes, some of the trends that are going to happen over the next few years, and how can creators, prepare themselves for some of these things, position themselves well?
This is an exciting, wild time. And Rob, I'd love to hear your thoughts at some point as well. But there is so much going on. But I do think if you have any inkling of wanting to be a creator, it is the best time. I think one of the big things that we're going to see, and how creators really master that multi format and multi-platform. Shorts has obviously taken a hold on YouTube, inspired by TikTok continues to thrive even in the fears of what will happen to TikTok, but it's here, it's happening. So I'm really excited to see how creators lean into as many platforms as possible, as many formats as possible. I think it's ultimately smart. I think that personally, I think creators should be making YouTube their main home when it comes to content. Long form is going to continue to be the place where you can get sort of that sort of stable AdSense if you can get high performing videos and higher RPMs. But with shorts and even with TikTok, like you can get brand partnerships, like that is continuing to grow. The appetite is there. So excited to see how creators manage all of that. You don't want to, in some cases you may be sacrificing efforts for one, and you want to see like what the impact of putting your efforts towards one thing was that worth the ROI. You should be constantly testing and measuring, but I'm interested to see how all of that evolves. I think the emergence of these niche creators, expert creators who don't necessarily have millions of followers but are able to earn a living and, cultivating these highly engaged loyal audiences, this creator middle class that seems to be blowing up. Really excited to see how that evolves and grows. And, they're leaning into platforms like Uscreen, or, brand partnerships, or, launching paid communities on mighty networks. Whatever they're doing, they're open to a lot of different solutions, and they're being very nimble and, very proactive about learning about these different platforms. It's smart to do that. So, they're realizing that virality won't necessarily be the key to their success. And the reality is that, like, most creators won't unlock that viral success that we see happen on YouTube. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try for it, but I do think that there's a reframe around the virality, given all of these monetization solutions that now exist for these kinds of niche creators, if you will. Excited to also see how creators evolve into becoming entrepreneurs. Obviously, we're seeing Jimmy with Feastables and how he's evolving that. I think as creators are doing more brand deals and realizing maybe they should be the brand, they should be launching the products and starting their own courses or what have you. Excited to see how the creators' risk appetite for that and how they experiment with it. I think AI is taking over. I think there's so many layers there. How will they take advantage of it to level up their content, create more content, save time in their workflows, use it to make their content more accessible to the rest of the world? How will they protect themselves? How they use AI. There's so much there that creators need to get smart on, but need to be aggressively exploring and implementing to sort of be ahead of the curve there. I think the final thing I'll talk about, because there's so much here and we could probably have a whole session talking about this, is brand partnerships as the sort of, secondary revenue stream after AdSense, right? That's been around for a while, but it continues to evolve and mature in ways that are really, really exciting. I think we talk about brands wanting longer term partnerships, creators wanting longer term partnerships. What will that mean and look like? And how will creators pitch themselves for those kinds of opportunities? I'm excited to see how that shakes out, but then also how brands lead into more like brand ambassador programs to sort of support those kinds of longer term partnerships with creators. I'm also excited to see how brands start to co-create more, going a little step further with creators, where creators even get equity in exchange for the contributions they provide in those partnerships. And I think even beyond that, like, I want to see how sort of performance plays into this. I think, like, for example, affiliate marketing, largely based on how much product that they convert, has not been seen highly by creators. But I think that it's, as more platforms are leaning into affiliate marketing and making this easier for creators to do and giving them more flexibility in how they bring this to their communities, I think more and more creators are going to lean into this and find success with it. And I'm really excited to see how that shakes out and how they think about, this revenue stream as well. But anyway, there's so much with brands. I think we can keep going, but it's exciting to see, like, while this continues to be a powerhouse of the creator economy, there's still so much innovation to be had, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think all of the above. All of the above. And I think you're right. We could totally talk for like 3 more hours here. Yeah, like nonstop. But yeah, it is such an exciting time. I'm glad that you're out here, and I'm excited to kind of see where you go next, what you decide, what you choose. I think you'll be successful wherever you decide. Yeah, so I'm gonna be tuning in on LinkedIn. If you guys are watching, listening, yeah, connect with Monica. You've got so much insight here that you're sharing on LinkedIn, whether you're a creator, working for a creator, or a brand. Yeah, it's just really exciting. One last question, really fun one. What are you consuming right now? Podcast, YouTube, like specific channel or creator, a book you're reading? What do you like tap into?
Um, let's see. Honestly, I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and I'm like really diving in, and I feel that when I'm working, I'm not able to consume all the
Yeah,
content,
true.
but I'm like I'm actually going deep into the libraries of certain creator economy podcasts, and I'm like, I never got to listen to that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go listen to that and like take notes. Like there's so much great information out there and so many great people in the industry that I'm learning about. And that's prompting me to reach out and do the cold email and say, I would love to meet you, learn more. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm spending my time. The other fun thing I'd say is like I've gotten into Penguin on Max, I think, the new
Oh,
Batman
nice.
spin-off,
Yeah, yeah.
which is more like a mafia show, which turns out I maybe it's because I'm from Jersey. I don't know. I love mafia shows. So I'm really loving Penguin right now. So they're not making all of the episodes available. So you gotta wait every Sunday. So that's my latest, like, okay, I'm gonna wait Sunday to watch my next
I
Penguin
love it. I
episode.
love it. I love it. That's on the queue. That's on the queue for us as well. I'm actually really impressed that Colin Farrell is the Penguin. Like, I don't. I'm really curious to
I
see how that plays out.
I'm still so just bewildered. Like, why they couldn't find somebody who kind of looks like that? Like, it's just so dramatic. I mean, he's obviously an incredible actor, and I don't want to like take away from that, but just like he looks completely different. So I
Completely
can't
different.
imagine how long that to like dress him up that way. So
Exactly. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Monica. This has been fun. I'm sure we'll see each other at some point here, and appreciate your time. Yeah, I'll have all the links to everything in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
thanks so much, Rob. I'm a huge fan and really appreciate your putting me on here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.